welcome to this week's edition of the Comic Hero Show. I'm your host, Victor Nutley, and I am the Comic Hero. Remember the Comicology 101 segment on Kyle Rayner that was 2 episodes ago? Well, where is his hometown? Is it A, Boston, B, New York, or C, Los Angeles? I'll reveal the answer at the end, but for right now, let the ranting begin.
What you talking about, Willis?
Okay, the first thing I want to talk about, and I should have talked about this in last week's episode, was Joey Chestnut. As you all know, on the 4th, he ended up winning the hot dog eating contest on Coney Island, and it was his 8th straight title. And on top of that, he also proposed to his girlfriend. And did she say yes? Well, of course she did. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking about this. So congratulations to Joey and his bride-to-be. And I hope for nothing but happy days for them. Okay, that's all I really have to talk about. But if you are one of my coworkers at my job and you're watching this for the first time, I hope you enjoy this episode and feel free to watch any older episodes. All right, this week DC versus Marvel. It's The Flash versus Quicksilver. Let's go.
Are you man enough, big and bad enough? Are you gonna let them shoot you down?
Welcome back to DC vs. Marvel. This week it's The Flash versus Quicksilver. The Flash can move, think, and react at light speeds, as well as having superhuman endurance that allows him to run at incredible distances. He can also vibrate so fast that he can pass through walls in a process called quantum tunneling. He can also travel through time, and he can also lend and borrow speed. The Flash has an invisible aura around his body that prevents him and his clothes from being affected by air friction as he moves at high speeds. He can also heal more rapidly than the average human. Quicksilver is a mutant capable of moving and thinking at superhuman speeds. Originally capable of running at the speed of sound, exposure to the high evolutionary's isotope E made it possible for the character to move at supersonic speeds up to Mach 10 and resist the efforts of friction, reduced oxygen, and kinetic impact while moving at super speeds. The character's speed allows him to perform such feats as creating cyclone-strength winds, run up walls, and cross bodies of water. Who would win? It would start off with them racing each other, with each race ending in a tie. Then they'd start fighting and ducking and punches and blocking kicks. Unbeknownst to Quicksilver, the Flash has been playing chicken from the start. One power that wasn't told was the ability to tap into the Speed Force, which he soon does, and it envelops Quicksilver in it. The Flash wins. And that concludes this week's segment of DC vs. Marvel. Well, I hope you enjoyed that awesome DC vs. Marvel with Quicksilver and the Flash. And next week I'll have another one. All right, let's get to the comics I bought this week.
Comic books I bought this week.
Up first is Green Lantern Corps number 33. This is the conclusion to the Uprising story arc. And in the previous chapter of Uprising, which was Green Lantern number 33, you find out that the Green Lanterns arrive on one of their Corps members' home planet and destroy all the Daxams with the exception of one. And that one they decide not to kill, but to imprison him in one of the science cells on the planet Mogo. Well, just when they thought they had killed them all, we find out something else happens, and we don't know now what happens in the happens at the end of the book isn't specified until this very issue, and I'm about to find out a little later on because I'm going to read it. Next up is Spider-Man 2099 number 1. This is the I think the second volume to this series. The last volume was somewhere in the 90s, but this is not Peter Parker. This is actually Miguel O'Hara, and what's so different now for him is instead of being in the year 2099, he's actually in the present day 2014 Marvel Universe, and he's adjusting to living in what he considers a primitive time. And now, instead of just when we thought there was one Spider-Man, there's actually three of them. There's Peter Parker, Kane Parker, and Miguel O'Hara. And I can't wait to read this because I've always been kind of curious about this Spider-Man. I mean, I've never read him before, but I can't wait to read it. Next up is Fantastic Four #7. This is a tie-in with Original Sin, and we find out in the last issue that the Fantastic Four are in court to answer for some of the things that have gone wrong while during the team's existence. And while this is going on, we find out that the Future Foundation, which are Franklin Richards, who happens to be Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman's son, and a few other young people are in SHIELD custody. And then one of the SHIELD agents come to the realization that they shouldn't be holding young people in custody like this. I mean, it's wrong. But then in the very last page, we find out that it's none other than Jim Hammond, the original Human Torch. And then that wasn't the last issue. That was number 5. And in number 6, we find out that just when the Fantastic Four were about to grab their belongings in the Baxter Building, the Avengers show up and they pretty much tell them, "You're not allowed anywhere in the Baxter Building." After they had already been told that they weren't allowed in some of the scientific floors of the Baxter Building. And this pisses off the Invisible Woman. She is angry beyond words. And some people think that the Thing is the most deadliest member of the Fantastic Four. No, it's the Invisible Woman. And then we also find out that the Human Torch, well, Johnny Storm that is, had been keeping a secret from the Thing. And then we find out what that secret is in this issue. In this issue, and let me tell you, it's not going to be pretty. All right, next up is Superman Wonder Woman #10. This is a continuation to the Superman Doom story arc, and the chapter that's going on in this month is called Super Doom, and that's right. What that means is that Superman is now a full-blown doomsday, and a lot of messed up things are happening. I mean, first off, at first he tries to team up with Wonder Woman to help calm him down, but that doesn't do very good. And then meanwhile, we find out that, well, Lana Lang finds out that something's controlling Lois Lane. But of course, we all already know that it's Brainiac. And what he plans to do is capture the entire city of Metropolis and make it into a bottle city, just like he did the city of Kandor on Metropolis. Oh, all that, and the cyborg Superman shows up. All right, next up is Superboy #33. Now, in the previous issues, we find out that the Parasite, who had already fought Superman, comes to Cadmus Labs, and he was being delivered to Cadmus Labs for research, and then he comes alive and decides to sap the life out of everybody. Then he tries to sap the life out of Superboy. The next thing we know, we find out that Superboy is also a parasite himself. And then he tries to get to the organization Nowhere Stronghold and find the clone of Superboy in order for him to heal himself and the clone to heal himself as well. Well, healing each other, if you will. And then and the next thing you know, there's a whole bunch of Superboys come out of the woodworks. Alright, next up is Uncanny Avengers number 11. And what's going on in this book is that they're going up against the Apocalypse twins that have come and pretty much want to take over the world. They want to do all the things that their old dad wasn't able to do. Who'll die? I can tell you this much. I don't think it's going to be this guy. Although in his current book, called his current book Wolverine, we find out that he actually is dying. All because he doesn't have his healing factor. Alright, up next is New Avengers number 14. I really can't tell you what's going on in this book, but I can tell you that in due time, some of the secrets that this Avengers team, aka the Illuminati, have been they've been keeping from the entire Marvel universe, are going to come to light, and they're all going to want a piece of this team, especially. And up next are 3 books that I read. I mean, it's a book that I read, but it's 3 issues, and I haven't been keeping up with them. But it's the Mighty Avengers, and the 3 issues that I have are Mighty Avengers number 5. Oh, by the way, this Spider-Man is still at this point Dr. Otto Octavius inside Peter Parker's body. It's not Peter Parker. And then Mighty Avengers number 6 and Mighty Avengers number 7. Now, what I can tell you about this team is that this is kind of the Streetwise Avengers, led by Luke Cage. All the other members are Spectrum, who used to go by the name Photon, whose real name is Monica Rambeau, and then White Tiger, Spider-Man, the New Power Man, and the Blue Marvel. Oh, and by the way, we find out that Ronan is also becomes a member of the New Avengers. But at first he went by the name Spider Hero. I mean, he just found an old Spider-Man costume and decided to make it into his own. Then he decided, okay, this doesn't look good, so I'm just gonna grab the old Ronin costume. He becomes this person becomes the 3rd person ever to become Ronin. The first, of course, was Daredevil's ex-girlfriend Echo, and then the second was Hawkeye. But I can't tell you. We find out who in a later issue that I'll buy eventually. We find out who is Ronin, and let me tell you, you will be surprised, because I leafed through that issue, although I didn't buy it, and I was shocked. Alright, next up are 4 issues of the same book. I haven't really been reading this, but I can tell you that there's some awesome stuff going on in it. First up is Deadpool. Excuse me, Deadpool number 23, and yes, that is a facsimile of Alien. Deadpool number 24. Deadpool number 27. Now, this is the issue where he gets married, and we find out who in this issue. And Deadpool number 30, which is a tie-in to Original Sin, and yes, that is the Dazzler that he's with. And finally, Guardians of the Galaxy number 16. Now, in the last issue, number 15, we find out that the Guardians have been stranded on different worlds. Some of them some of them on the operating table, ready to be dissected, and some of them on the run from the Badoon. But then we find who are their arch rivals, by the way. But then we find out that in this issue, another thing in number 15, Star-Lord ends up on the planet Spartax, and he is imprisoned by his own father, Jason. And he is, but in this issue, I think they're going to get some extra help. And it's from a card-carrying Avenger and a one-time agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and a one-time airman in the U.S. Air Force. Okay, that's 15 I bought, which brings the total number of comics that I bought since December of 1997 to 6,315. In this last chapter of Uprising and Green Lantern Corps number 33, someone sort of kind of dies. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Before I go on, I asked a question earlier. Where exactly is Kyle Rayner from? Is it A, Boston, B, New York, or C, Los Angeles? The correct answer is C, Los Angeles. He was born and raised in Los Angeles, and right after becoming a Green Lantern, he moved to New York. And next week, I don't know where I'll be. I don't know what I'm doing, but it will surely be a great show nonetheless. And if you have any ideas, and I ask for this all the time, but if you have any ideas, just let me know. Some of the best ways to get a hold of me is either through a phone call, a text message, email, Facebook message, meet me message, or just come to me and tell me. Your ideas will not go unnoticed. I will take them in consideration because, to be honest, I really don't like having to think of a lot, even though it's my show, but I just don't like that. Alright, I'm Victor Nunley. I'm the Comic Hero. See you next week. Till then, be safe, be blessed, be a hero.